All right, we're now going over the next video in this series of our top 50 fantasy football players of 2024. Starting right here at number 21, we're going over with Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver for the 49ers, and he's really showing out, right? Finally, over 1,400 yards this season, a lot better than the 1,100 yards he had before. He's really taken a step. The biggest thing that I like to see from Brandon Ayuk was his actual ADOT. This is 13.8 this season, way more than the 9 that he's used to getting. So his average depth of target is a lot more. He was getting a lot more opportunities downfield, which is why he put up such a big wide receiver overall fantasy number for us. Brandon Ayuk, part of the 49ers offense, who have gotten very good over the years, and they continue to be very good. I'm hoping Brandon Ayuk ends up back with the 49ers, rocking and rolling as the, I would say, number 2 wide receiver. As you guys saw in the last video we did, we had Deebo Samuel actually ranked above Brandon Ayuk. I still think Ayuk is a solid fantasy productive type of wide receiver. I just think that Deebo Samuel provides a little bit more in the rushing ability than Brandon Ayuk does. Let's just look at what the numbers was for Brandon Ayuk last year. We see that Brandon Ayuk ended up with 75 receptions for 1,342 yards and 7 touchdowns on top of all of that. So Brandon Ayuk, again, if you're ended up with him on your team, I think he's providing you enough fantasy value. I wouldn't be excited if he was your wide receiver 1 on your team, but definitely if you can get him as a wide receiver 2, I think that'd be rocking and rolling. Now, if you you try to take maybe an early quarterback and you rock out some running backs, Brandon Ayuk might have to be your number 1 wide receiver. Could he manage that? I think you could be okay, depending on if you get a lot more depth in that area. But Brandon Ayuk overall is going to be putting up a lot of solid numbers. Could be a phenomenal fantasy asset for your football team if you end up with this guy on your team. Let's go over to number 22 right now. We're going to the New Orleans Saints. Talk about Chris Olave. This could be a really big season for Chris Olave, right? So last season, we saw the New Orleans Saints kind of struggle a little bit, right? They had Michael Thomas coming back. Who's the number 1 wide receiver? Is it Olave? Is it Michael Thomas? The O-line couldn't block for anything. Derek Carr throwing some ducks in the air because he had absolutely no time to throw the ball. But we started to see a little bit of chemistry with Chris Olave and Derek Carr as the season started progressing. I think that Chris Olave is going to have an awesome time this season. We got Rashid Shaheed at the 2nd wide receiver. A.T. Perry probably going to be there in the 3rd. We got Cedric Wilson over there from the Miami Dolphins now on the team as well. We drafted Bub Means really later on in the draft. So not a lot of competition to be the number 1 alpha dog now that Michael Thomas is gone. So Chris Olave is the 1A type of guy. Let's just see what he did last season. We see Chris Olave ended up with 87 receptions for 1,123 yards and 5 touchdowns. Chris Olave was showing us he can be the guy that we all thought he could. We got to remember, in college, he was playing alongside there with Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he was dominant, right? He was able to provide a lot of fantasy points for you in college if you played a lot of college football. But look, here in the pros, he's going to continue to ascend and be better and better each and every year, especially if he's starting to get into that workload with Derek Carr and they get on the same page. I think Chris Olave is going to be having this could be a career year for Chris Olave. I'm extremely high on this guy. I think he's somebody you should be targeting into your drafts. He's not going as high as what I think he should. As ADP is probably a little bit too low for me. I'll probably have a lot of Chris Olave on my team. Let's go over to the next guy. At number 23 overall, we're going with Michael Pittman Jr., the wide receiver for the Colts. And we all know now with Anthony Richardson coming back, what type of chemistry is he going to have with AR? Is he going to be like with Gardner Minshew? Because Gardner Minshew got Pittman the football. I think Anthony Richardson is a better version, obviously, of Gardner Minshew. I think he can throw just as good as Gardner Minshew, but he's got that rushing ability too, right? So as long as he is targeting in on Michael Pittman Jr., not so much on that rookie Adonai Mitchell that's coming out of University of Texas, Josh Downs maybe at the flex. You even got Alec Pierce as well. Don't forget about Jelani Woods, that tight end position. There's going to be a lot of situations here where Michael Pittman's going to have plenty of opportunities to flourish in this offense. Let's see what he was able to do last year, mostly with Gardner Minshew. We see Michael Pittman with 109 receptions, 1,152 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Gardner Minshew gave him the football, over 100 receptions. That's what you want to see out of your fantasy wide receivers. I think Michael Pittman could have a phenomenal year this season under AR throwing him the football. It's like a wait and see approach, but I am definitely very bullish right now on Michael Pittman Jr. I think it's going to definitely reap the rewards later on in the season. So let's move it to the next guy here. We're going to number 24 overall. We're going with Jalen Hurts, the other quarterback. And I know they're like, whoa, how is he the 3rd quarterback off the board? And I did have Anthony Richardson above Jalen Hurts. Well, look, there's a lot of things going against Jalen Hurts right now. So the tush push got him a ton of fantasy points. It wasn't all about his throwing ability, it was his rushing ability and the rushing touchdowns he was able to get. You subtract Jason Kelce, you have the addition of Saquon Barkley. I think there's going to be a lot of times they're in the goal line, they're not necessarily going to be doing that tush push because it probably isn't going to be successful, because I think Travis Kelce was the anchor of the tush push. A lot of people saying it's more Jalen Hurts than it was Kelce. I strongly think it was Kelce, and we're going to see. We're going to find out. So when they get to that goal line, they may be more apt to give it to Saquon Barkley than they are to just rush the football in from the 2, right? So I just think Jalen Hurts is going to have a little bit of a step back. I still think he's a great quarterback, an awesome fantasy quarterback, definitely a top 5 quarterback with ease, just based on the floor of his rushing ability alone. Let's look at what he did last season. We see that Jalen Hurts ended up with 3,858 yards, passing with 23 passing touchdowns, along 605 rushing yards with 15 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts was phenomenal. People loved having on a team a top fantasy quarterback, because not only he's throwing the football to a lot of dogs out there. We got AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, but now we have a running back in there in Saquon Barkley who can also catch a lot of screen passes, swing passes, things of that nature, and make something happen, which could only help Jalen Hurts even more. I think overall, I think people need to temper their expectations. He's gonna be a little bit lower than what I think that he should be. I think a lot of people got him a little too high for me. That's why I have AR up there, and I got Lamar Jackson above Jalen Hurts as of right now. But I think overall, you can't go wrong with Jalen Hurts. If you like him, go ahead and get your guy. He's gonna give you a lot of points. So we're on to the next guy, number 25. We're talking about Kyren Williams, somebody who has been slipping into my top 50, mostly because of Blake Corum, the running back out of Michigan. They drafted this guy. I'm telling you, this dude's got some crazy vision, and he's going to take some workload away from Kyren Williams. That's just how it is. Kyren Williams he was the bell cow, right, for the Rams. He was running the ball. First down, second down, third down, didn't matter. He was running the football. I think they're going to limit that just a little bit with Blake Corum. He is that talented of a running back. Let's just look at what Kyren Williams did last season. We see that Kyren Williams ended at 1,144 yards rushing with 12 touchdowns. Ended up with also 206 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns on top of all of that. But again, you're probably going to see a little bit of a regression for Kyren Williams. And I think that's why he's dropping not only my rankings, but probably a lot of other people's rankings too. People are really high on Blake Corum, right? And there's a reason why. He's one of the better running backs to come out of college football this season. I think he's going to take some carries away from Kyren Williams. If you got him, you're going to be happy that you have him, because he's going to be okay. I think there's going to be some weeks that he's not very consistent because Blake Corum maybe took a touchdown or 2 away from him. So just temper your expectations for Kyren Williams if you have him as your number 1 running back. So next guy we're going over here, number 26 overall, we're talking about Josh Allen, that quarterback out of Buffalo. Now, he did lose his top target in Stephon Diggs. You know, he's got a new target in Keon Coleman. He's got some other targets out there. So Gabe Davis is gone, and like I said, Stephon Diggs is gone. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be focused in this offense. I think he's still got enough weapons to be fantasy relevant, because Josh Allen has a high floor because of his rushing ability. All the guys, definitely in my top section of my quarterbacks, all have a high rushing floor, which makes them, it doesn't matter how much they're passing for. If they they pass for 220, 250 yards instead of the 300 yards each and every week, you're still going to have a high ceiling with these guys because of the rushing ability just alone. Let's just see what he did last season. We see that Josh Allen ended up with 4,306 passing yards with 29 touchdowns, along 524 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. That is absolutely bonkers. The dude's rushing for 15 touchdowns. He can get the ball in the end zone. That's what makes him such a valuable fantasy quarterback. Now, will there be some regression? Possibly, because there's not enough playmakers out there as of right now, unless some of these rookies step up and make some plays. But does Justin Shorter, step up, make some plays? Is Keon Coleman going to be the guy? Is Khalil Shakir going to step up and be the guy? We don't know what's going to happen with that, but we have to kind of wait and see. As of right now, I'm kind of tempering my expectations for Josh Allen, decreasing him just a little bit on my board. He comes up at my 4th quarterback overall. But I think you can't really go wrong with Josh Allen. He is a stud at the fantasy football quarterback position. I just think make sure you're not drafting him way too high. Don't go into that bucket. But if he falls to you at a value, Josh Allen be huge for your fantasy football team. He's still going to put up good numbers for you. So we're going over number 27 right now. We're talking about Mike Evans, the wide receiver for the Buccaneers. Somebody who really had a nice rapport, not only with Tom Brady when Tom Brady was gone, now Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield just slings the ball up to Mike Thomas. And Mike Evans, I'm sorry, and he comes down with the football. Mike Evans has a crazy amount of ability, right? He's had 1,000 yards plus every season he's been in the NFL. I mean, he is on his line to being a Hall of Famer if he keeps this up. I mean, some people maybe say he's already punched his ticket to the Hall of Fame just based on the numbers he is producing. Let's look at what he did last season with Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans ended up with 79 receptions for 1,255 yards and 13 touchdowns. Like I said, he's consistent, right? Week in, week out for your team. You know what you're getting. You're getting a nice high floor type of guy who has a chance of having a decent ceiling as well. Mike Evans putting up plenty of fantasy points. Look for Chris Godwin to probably be a little bit more involved with the offense this season, but Mike Evans is still going to get his. He's still going to be over 1,000 yards receiving. He's still going to be producing. So I like Mike Evans this season. I think he's going to continue on with Baker Mayfield. They're going to have a good offense. They're just going to sling the ball all over the field because they want to make sure they're either trying to get a lead or trying to stay a lead. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the field. Mike Evans could be a nice addition for your team. Let's go over the next guy here at number 28. We're talking about Davante Adams. And man, this is kind of a sad story for me, right? Because I want Davante to be with a great quarterback yet again. He left Aaron Rodgers to go with his friend Derek Carr. Derek Carr ended up getting shipped out. Now he's over there with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback at that point? We need to hope that they're going to hyper target this guy, the football. Let's look at what Davante Adams was able to do last season without really anything at the quarterback position. Davante Adams, 103 receptions, 1,144 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I want to see double-digit touchdowns out of Davante Adams. He has that type of talent. He just needs somebody to get him the football, right? So it can happen. We just need the Raiders to step up. Can Gardner Minshew, which is actually a decent quarterback, come to the rescue for Davante Adams and make him fantasy relevant as far as one of those top tier guys again? Davante Adams getting a little bit older and he doesn't really have a lot of time left to be elite for you. This year could be the last year of eliteness you get from Davante Adams, and I'm hoping Gardner Minshew can help cater that. So going to number 29 right now, we're talking about Sam Laporta. He's the number 1 tight end on my list as of right now. He showed us last year that even rookies can come in and be dominant, right? Sam Laporta was phenomenal for fantasy football. He provided a lot of owners who ended up taking a shot on him at the end towards the end of their drafts with some nice fantasy relevance. Look at what he did last season. Sam Laporta ended up with 86 receptions, 889 yards receiving, and 10 touchdowns. Jared Goff was focusing in on this guy, and he was coming up big in a lot of plays. He was catching, first downs when needed, catching it in the red zone for touchdowns. He was doing everything you need for a tight end in fantasy football. This year, he's going extremely high, right? We're looking at maybe even some 3rd rounds, right, for Sam Laporta to be coming off the draft board. It's a little bit too rich for my blood to be taking a tight end that early in the drafts. But again, I think it is warranted just because he is producing some solid fantasy numbers at a premium position. Tight ends right now, there's a lot of cock-a-doodle in that position. Sam Laporta gives you a little bit of stability in that area. So let's go over the last guy we're going over here right now at number 30. Last guy on the list for this video, we're talking about Rachaad White, the running back for the Buccaneers. Rachaad White, consistency, right? There's not a lot of people behind him. Whether they were saying, oh, Sean Tucker or Chase Edmonds, who's going to take over some work from this guy? Well, nobody did. Well, now they drafted a rookie out of Oregon, Bucky Irvin. Is he going to take some workload away from Rashad Evans? At the end of the day, I don't really think so. I think Bucky Irvin is just kind of a scat back. Sometimes maybe on 3rd down when they need a little quick pass, maybe they'll go with that. But the bell cow for the most part is going to be Rachaad White. Let's just look at what he did last season. Rachaad White ended up with 990 rushing yards with 6 touchdowns, alongside 549 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns on top of all of that. He can do a little bit of everything, right? He can be a true bell cow type of back, and he's pretty efficient. The way that he runs through the tackles and his vision is quite nice. So if you grab Rachaad White, I would much rather him as your RB2, but sometimes there may be some cases where you might have to have him as your RB1, and you could do a lot worse than Rachaad White. He is very involved in the offense. Probably not the best offense to be in. I'm not sure if he's going to get to that 1,000 yards rushing. We'll have to wait and see. He's going to get close no matter what it is. So if you're in need of a running back, I think Rachaad White coming at number 30 for me on my list. I think he's a good option to do that. But hey, look, guys, this is the next video in this series. We're doing our top 50 overall fantasy football players. Make sure you're hitting the like button. I really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet. I know a lot of people, you guys watching the video right now, are not currently subscribed. Help us get over there. We're getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. Really helps out the channel. And leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about the tier rankings here from 21 to 30? Who do you like? Who do you not like? Do you think somebody should be higher? Do you think somebody should be lower? What do you guys think about the video? Leave it in the comment section below. Guys, we're pumping out videos each and every week to help you guys dominate your leagues. I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.